Well, we are wrapping up, believe it or not. Didn't we just start this series? It's already the end of September, and we're wrapping up our series this month on our ever-changing world, where we've been exploring this idea of alchemy, which is basically changing one thing into another. And we started off the month looking at changing chaos to order. And we decided that we live in an orderly universe, and that maybe it's our thinking and beliefs that makes it a little chaotic, that creates a little drama in our lives from time to time, perhaps, maybe, yes. And then we went into looking at resistance to allowing, moving from resistance into allowing, and how God can only do for us what we allow God to do through us. What we allow, because we're not puppets in some great universal play. We have free choice and free will, and we allow Spirit to flow through us. And then last week we talked about moving from separation to harmony, and that Spirit is this overarching harmony of the universe, that fitting together of everything. It just kind of works. It just kind of works. And we looked at the great example of that coming together in oneness that we are. We looked at the example of the aspen trees. And we talked about how when you see an aspen forest, it looks like individual trees, but in reality, they're all from the same seedling and they share the same root system. So we can't see that. We see what looks like separate trees, but yet it is really that oneness of that one root system, just like us. We are all of the same root system, if you will. We are all of the divine. So we're going to wrap up today with this exploration of how we can apply these universal truths and the proven principles within the science of mind that we teach and become alchemists in our own lives. Alchemists in our own lives. And today my talk is transforming fear to love. Transforming fear to love. Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. He's also the author of The Science of Mind, the textbook that we use. And he tells us that fear is the great enemy of man. He says, but fear is a mental attitude, and as such can be converted into something else. Sounds like alchemy, doesn't it? Fear brings limitation and lack in its wake and destroys the happiness and possibility of a greater degree of livingness to those who suffer from it. So if you've ever experienced fear, you know what that suffering feels like. It can be debilitating. It can also be motivating. And it can be the basis of our making decisions sometimes. And then sometimes we look back and go, wow, I made that decision completely out of fear. And maybe have some challenges with it and wish we maybe hadn't made that decision, right? I think we've all been there. We've all been there. Fear is considered one of our most powerful emotions, and it's caused by a belief that something is threatening us. It's dangerous to us. It's going to create pain, perhaps. We feel threatened. And if we say it's a belief, because our feelings come up from those beliefs, right? Our feelings come up from the beliefs. And many times it's generated by our past experience. It's generated by something that happened in the past that we bring forward into now, and we believe that whatever's happening now is going to have the same result as what happened in the past, or we take that past experience and we project it into the future, and we call that worry. We project it into the future and just know that it's going to work out exactly the same way, right? And what are we missing? This now moment. Because we're either dragging stuff from the past or over here in the future strategizing and planning and trying to offset our risks and things that we might have happen that happened over. We get all caught up in that and we miss the right now time. Now, Science of Mind tells us that principle is not bound by precedent, which means that the past does not dictate our future unless we allow it to. Unless we allow it to. If you've ever been confronted by an angry dog, you know what fear is, right? And what happens in that moment when you're confronted with that angry dog? Our bodies go primitive. That's the best way to say it. We go into fight or flight. And there's this whole series of reactions and things that happen in our body quicker than that, actually. And we have assessed the situation and made our decision. Do I stay or do I run? And, in that moment, you've noticed if there's a leash on the dog. Is he really friendly but just appears to be mean? Is he going to eat me? What is going to happen? And we make this assessment in that very quick process. All of the blood in our bodies has gone into our muscles because we're ready to fight or flee if we need to. All of these chemical reactions and processes and things happen that quickly that tell us, we assess that situation and tell us what to do. Now, that's probably been a good thing in our history, historically ancient through time, right? It's protected us from saber-toothed tigers and all sorts of crazy things, right? But right here in good old Scottsdale, Arizona, we don't have a lot of that we have to face every day. But what do we face? What do we face? What are these stressors and things that we see today that we have that we use this reaction to? Well, usually it's not physical as much as emotional. It's emotional. And it's a lot of that same idea that I was talking about dragging things from the past and projecting into the future. You've been contacted by a supervisor to have a meeting. What do they want? Oh my gosh, last time they called me and they did this, right? And we start to worry and we start to look at what happened last time. We start to project what's going to happen this time. What have I done? What do they want me for? What's going to happen? We start creating all of that, right? And our fear can come up in that moment. Our fear can come up. It's really the anticipation of the attack, perhaps, that's got us in the fear at that moment. I have the privilege right now of dealing with a client who at first we thought might be bipolar because of some of the reactions that we were getting in some of our business dealings. And we've now decided he's just a bully, frankly. And I have, as I said, the privilege of having a meeting with him next week. So this week, I love how the Spirit works. I've been preparing this talk, and I've been working on this meeting. And I've been projecting into the future. I've been over-preparing for the meeting. I want to be so prepared that he's got no reason to be the bully that I've experienced in the past, right? So I'm dragging all that previous experience, projecting it into next week, literally, and I'm missing now. I'm missing now. So what I have an opportunity to do now, as I've had this experience this week, and with our message today, is go there as love. Meet a bully with love. And I'm really now looking forward to the meeting to see how this is all going to unfold, knowing that it's going to be perfect, of course, but yet recognizing that, when I can elevate myself and keep myself up in that higher vibration of consciousness, higher vibration of love, and sit down in a meeting face-to-face with someone like that, what happens? It diffuses, doesn't it? It diffuses. And that has been my experience with him. He's had a tendency to be very political and has lectured me on one occasion, and I wasn't laughing at his jokes. And I finally just told him, I said, I'd really like to get back to our meeting. I don't agree with your politics, but I appreciate you sharing them with me, but let's move. And he goes, well, I don't agree with them either. I just thought it was funny. So we've had some interesting conversations. So I'm looking forward to the next one, but to show up as love in those situations in our life diffuses that fear. When I shifted my thinking of this meeting to, I'm going to be there, I'm going to walk in as love in this meeting, all of my anticipation of that attack just went away. It just went away. So I was able to transform that. It's kind of like Mark Twain said. He said, life does not consist mainly or even largely of facts and happenings. It consists mainly of the storm of thoughts that is forever blowing through our own head. I had a big storm, didn't I? All of those thoughts and projections and this, that, and the other going on. So what storm is in your mind today? What storm of thoughts is brewing or at full gale force in your mind today? Is there a fear storm around lack? Something that you've not got enough of? Time, money, those are the two biggies, right? Is it a fear of death? Is it a storm around the loss of something? A job, a home, a relationship? Ernest Holmes, our founder, again says, the fear of lack is nothing more than the belief that God does not and will not supply whatever we need. The fear of death is the belief that the promises of eternal life are not true. And the fear of loss of health, loss of friends, loss of property, all arise from the belief that God is not all that we claim. Omniscient, capacity to know everything there is to know, omnipotent, unlimited power to do everything, and omnipresence, the quality of being everywhere at once. We say, what's one of the first things we say? God is all there is. God is all there is. And that's our way of simplifying those big words, all the omni words, of describing what spirit is. God is all there is. Do we believe it? Do we believe it? And that's the idea that Holmes is talking about, is this fear of lack or loss is nothing more than the belief that God's not going to do what we say, what we believe. He goes on to explain that fear is nothing more nor less than the negative use of faith. Faith misplaced. He's got a whole page written about faith misplaced in the Science of Mind text that's very, very powerful when we think about that. It's faith in something besides the truth. Faith in something besides the truth. And I can see how that's been true in my life. Sometimes I've believed in things that were not true more than I've believed in, held to that higher vision, that higher truth of God is all there is. I've allowed myself, and I'm sure most of us have at some point, to believe the media, the world is crashing down, the stock market's gone, the money's all gone, whatever the fear is at that time. I mean, we've all bought in. In real estate, we sometimes say they drank the Kool-Aid of the bubble's going to continue forever and never burst. And we know that life is cyclical. We know that life is cyclical. So are we convinced that just because we've had this experience of lack in the past, it's A, going to continue, or B, it's going to happen again? Are we convinced of that? Just because we've had a broken heart once, are we now saying, did that, all women are X, all men are X, done. Been there, done that, carve it in stone, close the book. What have we done? We've built our own little wall, our own little box that we now live in of limitation, haven't we? Once we do that, we've built our own box of limitation. I came across a paper this week that is supporting one of the things that I say around here a lot, which is tell a better story, right? Tell a better story. I've encouraged you to do that for a year now. And I liked his examples. One of them, he said, your story might be, I am lonely because I was treated harshly as a child and can't trust others. I am lonely because I was treated harshly as a child and can't trust others. Now, that may have been a diagnosis from a psychologist. It sort of sounds like that, where we're telling a story about childhood, and the psychologist goes, oh, well, yes, of course, you were treated harshly as a child, so that's the reason you can't trust anyone today. And we go, oh, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's what happened. And we pick up that suitcase and we walk out the door with it. That's our new baggage, isn't it? And we walk out the door with it, and we carry it around, and we start to get used to it, and we start to own it a little bit, don't we? And then we open the suitcase, and we start to put all that stuff on, and it becomes who we are. That's who I am. See, that happened to me, and that's who I am. That's why I'm the way I am. That's why I'm the way I am. Right. And we own this, and we do this, and really, This is your opinion of something you witnessed as a child, that you've shared that story with somebody else that's a complete stranger who's now interpreted that story through their own perspectives, who is now giving you a new definition that you're going, yeah, that's it. Make up a better story, one that serves and supports us. A better story in his example is, my early life taught me to crave and seek healthy connections. That's more empowering, isn't it? That's more empowering. Do you remember in July, those of you who were here, I was sharing the story about my sister's healing her fear of heights. We were at the Grand Canyon, and she was walking out over the glass bridge over the canyon, and I related that experience and how that had worked and everything. Well, in August, I went home and visited, and I was talking to her about this, and I was sharing that story with her, and I showed her the clip from the talk. I told her, I said, I was talking about you in service. So I showed her the clip, and at the end of it, I said, so, is that what you recall? And she goes, not really. Not really. We're two adults. I mean, we're not talking little kid stories. We're talking adults who were in the same place at the same time, witnessing the same event. Not really. Not really. So what I realized, once again, is that we all filter everything through our own perspectives. We've got 45 people in the room this morning. You're all hearing me completely differently from what I think I'm saying. You're interpreting it differently, right? You're all interpreting it differently. You've got your own perspectives, your own filters, your own baggage, might I say, that you're bringing along with it. That's how life works. Tell a better story. Now, I'm not suggesting we lie. It has nothing to do with lying. Think of my sister and I. Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? We both are. We were both there. We both had the experience. We just had different experiences. We had different perceptions. Now, if you really want to analyze this a little bit, I'm the baby sister, and I'm watching her, and I'm so proud of her and so excited for her and so positive and cheering her on, right? And she's terrified. She's all up in her stuff. She's in her head. She's in fear. There's no blood in her brain, right? It's all in her muscles. She's ready to fly the other way. So she has a completely different experience of it than I did. Of course she did. But you got to hear my version, so that's how that works. That's how that works. So I invite you to really think about that. Think about your story. Think about what you're telling. Does it support you? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel happy? If it doesn't, make up a better one. Reinterpret those stories of our life that are bringing us down, the baggage that we drag. Reinterpret them. Just like this guy said, I'm lonely because I was treated harshly as a child and I can't trust others. So therefore, I'm a non-trusting person. I'm going to live my life as a non-trusting person. That's who I'm going to be. Or, my early life taught me to crave and seek healthy connections, and therefore I have so many healthy connections in my life. Better story. Better story. Better interpretation. So let's talk about love. That's the other side of this equation this morning. Let's talk about love. The first Bible verse that I ever learned as a small child in the Methodist Church in Pembroke, Virginia, was God is love. 3 words. They figured I could remember that. God is love. But if you look it up, it's in 1 John 4:8, and God is love, and everyone who does not love does not know God. Isn't that pretty? Because we do say God is love. And if we can't love each other, how can we know God? How can we have that personal relationship? So if God is love and we are spirit in expression, then we too are love. Marianne Williamson says that love is to people what water is to plants. That's a good analogy, isn't it? That's a real good analogy. Holmes tells us that love is the givingness of spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. In terms of creation. He calls love the great transforming power, which brings everything into harmony. Are you seeing a theme? You starting to see the theme? It is the unifying principle, the creative element, the motivating power of all that is fine and noble in life. And in metaphysical treatment, it is the healing force. In our affirmative prayer, love is the healing force. That's why we do those first 2 steps of treatment, really, where we recognize that God is all there is. God is love. And then we unify with that. We are that which it is. And when we can get ourselves into that unification of that absolute unconditional love of Source, of Spirit, of God, and realize that we are it, when we get into that place, then when we speak our word, it's already done. Because how can it not be? How can it not be? If we are that which Spirit is, how can it not be? So I have to ask, is love this mysterious philosopher's stone that we hear about in this process of alchemy? They were always looking for that catalyst, that thing that would make the conversion happen when they were trying to convert lead to gold or mercury to gold or create an immortal life. Whatever they were working on, they were always looking for that philosopher's stone. It was the search they had. So, is it love? Is love the transforming power that does that conversion? Is it what is turning fear of being separate from Source into that harmony and oneness with it? We see love transforming our world in many times, not always, but many times if we really look for it. Remember I believe it was last summer, the event in North Carolina at the church where the gunman came in and shot some of the parishioners in their meeting. They did not react with hate and violence and anger. They reacted with love. They said, we're not going to put our negative energy, our violence in this pool of violence. We're going to be a stand for love. And we didn't have the riots and all of the other violence come out of that. We saw that beautiful peace march across the bridge of thousands of people after that event. That's the transforming and healing power of love. That's what it does. That's what it does. Aren't we, in fact, all of these things we've been talking about all month that we're transforming into? Aren't we already those things? Aren't we already order, allowing, harmony, and love? The experience of chaos, resistance, separation, and fear are effects. They're effects. It's not reality. They're effects that we experience. And they're created by our beliefs, and we know that we can transform those beliefs because it's what we teach in the science of mind, right? That's what we teach. Change your thinking, change your life. Change your thinking about yesterday, you'll change your life tomorrow. Don't drag that stuff forward. So how can we begin to move ourselves today from the experiences of fear into love? How can we do that? What are some steps we can take? So we'll look at practicing our principles this week. And our first one is, as Holmes said in the beginning of our talk, recognize that fear is a mental attitude. It's just a thought. It's a mental attitude. Complex mental state involving our beliefs, feelings, values, and disposition to act in a certain way under certain circumstances, because we've always done it that way, right? So that's what fear is. It comes up based on those experiences. But we have the power to change our mental attitudes, don't we? Let's say we're on an airplane. Anybody has a fear of flying, just hang on. I'm not going to make it too scary. We're on an airplane. Starts to do some weird things. Rattles maybe, bounces around a little bit. we go into fear. Oh my gosh. And we're a little bit frozen in our seat. Well, there's 6 pilots on the airplane getting transported to a different airport. Whatever. They're not concerned at all, are they? Because of their experience, they know it's no big deal. This is just a little turbulence. There's nothing going on. But we're locked in fear. The flight attendants don't even notice it. They have those special shoes that they don't even bounce anymore, right? They don't even notice it. The pilot and the navigator and everything, first officer up front, they're flying away, no big deal. We're locked in fear. Is it true, or is it a mental attitude? It's our mental attitude in that moment that we're experiencing fear. So what can we do to transform it? It's our basic process. Step 1 is recognize, okay, I'm having thoughts that this is scary. I'm making up a big old story here that is not necessarily true. I'm scaring myself. Stop it. So recognition of what you're doing, recognition that it's a thought. Step 2, decide what you would prefer. Okay, I'm not exactly enjoying this fear. I'm kind of tired of it. I would really like to be calm, peace, ease, whatever feeling you'd like to feel. Name it. And then step 3, make up a better story about it. Make up a better story about it. Those people are okay. I can be okay. Those pilots aren't worried. I'm not worried. They're the professionals. They know what they're doing. I'm not going to be worried. I'm going to be at peace and ease. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray. I'm going to read something. I'm going to have a cocktail. Whatever. Shift that perspective. Make up a better story. Number 2, principle is not bound by precedent. Principle is not bound by precedent. Have you ever worked in one of those places where they go, well, we just do it that way. We've always done it that way. That's how we do it. And you're new to the place and you're going, wow, there's 87 better ways to do that. Why do we use this big old convoluted system? Well, we've always done it that way. Well, sometimes we've always done it that way works in the process. It's good to have that. But sometimes it limits us, doesn't it? It blocks that creative flow because this is how we do it. It's the only way we do it. It's the only way we can do it. And we get stuck. We get stuck. Principle is not bound by precedent. Let go of the idea in your life, that you can't change, that the past dictates the future. Let go of that. Think fresh, think new. What new ideas could come through me and a way to do this, a way to be, a way to show up and do life? Number 3, use your philosopher's stone. You were born of it, in it, as it. It is you, and that is love. Use your philosopher's stone. You are a gem. You have come into the world, as Esther says, as pure positive energy. Pure positive energy is how you've come in, as love expressed. You are the givingness of God. Did you know that? You are the givingness of God. Spirit expressing and creating as you, and then you do the same. You do the same. This is your greatest asset. That is your greatest asset, is the fact that you are love. Get our fear out of the way. Step into love. Use it as that transforming power in your life, in all of your interactions with others. So we're here to help remind each other not to be afraid, that we're all in the same root system. We're all connected, even though we look different, even though we look like we're separate this morning. We're all connected. We're all connected in that oneness and wholeness of spirit, of the divine. And as Marianne Williamson said, love is to people what water is to plants. We hunger for love, and we perish without it. That's why we're always looking to connect. We're always looking for relationship and friendships. That's why we want to be included. It's because we seek that reconnection, that relationship with love, with other loving beings. So I want to close our series today with a quote by Ernest Holmes, and this really is kind of wrapping up the whole series. And he says that the integrity of the universe cannot be questioned or doubted. The integrity of the universe, the order of the universe, cannot be questioned or doubted. The Spirit must be and is perfect. That which is back of everything must be good, must be complete, must be love and harmony. When we are out of harmony with some special good we desire, it is because we are off track along that particular line of the activity of Spirit. We're off track. Spirit doesn't ever get off track. We're off track. Discouragement, fear, doubt, and calamity cannot come from source. They must come from our own consciousness. They must come from our own consciousness, our own mental attitudes. Tell a better story. We've seen that we can move in consciousness from chaos to order, from resistance to allowing, from separation to harmony, and from fear to love. Order, allowing, harmony, love. These are the oceans beneath our ships that are stable, supportive, always there and available to us. It is up to us to choose the direction. It is up to us to choose the direction. So choose well. Choose well. This week I invite you to go, to be, to love, and to use your philosopher's stone. The world needs you. So please join me as we anchor this in prayer this morning. How good it is to come together in this one as we recognize that God is all there is. There is nothing else but God. It is the power and the presence. It is love itself, unconditioned, unconditional, expressing as itself through its creation. And all of that is here now present in, through, and as me, and in, through, and as each and every one in this room and within the sound of my voice. And I know that as such that we are that manifestation of Spirit, of Source, of love itself. And that we are love in form. So from this place of knowingness, I speak my word for and about each one of us, knowing that we remember this truth of who we are, and that we step boldly into our new stories of those things that we have experienced in life, and elevating those into these highest vibrations of love, of joy, of peace, of harmony, and that which lifts us and supports us into the joy and happiness of life expressing through us and as it is meant to be. I know and claim this for each of us here this day. And I know that if we have anything on our hearts this morning that we would like extra prayer support around, that as we open our hearts and lift that now into presence, that the healing is revealed with ease, with grace, surrounded by love. So it is with great gratitude and thanksgiving for the manifestation of this prayer, for the truth that has been revealed here this day, that I just release this into the action and the power of the universal law, knowing that it's already done. I couldn't have had the thought if it were not already done in the mind of God. It is whole, perfect, complete, and fully manifested. And I just let it go and let it be, and we know this together by anchoring together and saying, and so it is.